Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today we're going to talk about a horror splatterpunk horror story called They All Died Screaming. So, because I like books and I'm a little bit of a writer, I want to talk about this book because it has fascinated me in a perspective from a prepper, and it's also a little bit of a review, so it's a little bit mix of both. So, yeah, uh, and there will be spoilers, by the way. So if you have not read the book yet or listened to the other audiobook, please listen or read it first before you come back here because it is a very interesting, one of the more interesting books that I read this year. All right, so it's called "They All Died Screaming." It's from 2020 splatterpunk horror story, written by Christopher Triana. And the basic premise of the story is we follow a character called Chuck, uh, and yeah, he's just uh, it's like an unemployed loser that lives in a bad part of town, surrounded by just bad people. And I'm talking about bad people, people who are depressed, alcoholics, drug users, unemployed, all that kind of stuff. You know, and the premise of the story is there is slightly more news of a virus that turns people into screamers, and these screamers are people who are infected with the scream as they call it in the book. They just start screaming uncontrollably as loud as possible, and they cannot stop it. They only stop by either exhaustion, dehydration, or by committing suicide because they cannot handle it anymore, or by violence because they go mental after a certain while. So that is the premise of the story, and I'm going to start from beginning to end to talk about what the survivors could have done better or the mistakes that they make. So we first, like I said, follow Chuck. This, by the way, for the people who are going to read or listen to this book, its its writing style is interesting to Surgical because there are actually two stories that will come back together as one because it's always one part of this story and then you will read this part of the story and at the end you will make the connection. The first part, uh, because it is less relevant to the scream, but it is part of the story. It's about a young boy who is 9 years old, who would get kidnapped in at a mall, and he's being kidnapped by the what in the book is called the pig man, and that is because this is a serial killer who lives in a pig farm, and he started to first, as he brings the boys to him, he started to let the boy do works uh, like working on the farm, that kind of stuff. But this guy is a serial killer because he also kidnaps women, keeps them in the pig farm, and he actually used them as cattle because the pig man calls these women that he kidnapped veal. And at first start, and that is the the one side of the story that I'm first going to tell a little bit in whole. uh, the boy is starting to start to see this guy as his a father figure because the book talks about his life from 9 years till he's around 16. And yeah, it's perhaps Stockholm syndrome or it's just a coping mechanism, but the boy is starting to see this serial killer as his father figure because yeah, he makes him not only a victim but also a perpetrator in the crime, and the more he does it the more he starts to enjoy it, not only because he starts to see this the pigman as a father figure, but also because he starts to, while he's growing up, he starts to see these captured women that he takes care of as veal, as they call the victims in the book. uh, Gives him a feeling of power because first the women called him boy and pleaded for to release them. And one time he let one escape, and yeah, she got shot by the pigman because he was a little bit sick, and just caught her in time with his rifle. And yeah, then he started to distrusted them. He started to feel power over them, and he started to become like the pigman, the serial killer. And later on, the by the way, they kill the women that they are not needed anymore for. They they start to put them into grinders and sell the meat as pork meat in the city to make money. So that's the first part of the story. Later on, the big man gets eventually discovered by the police, and because he tries to protect the kid that he started to see as a son, and the kid is started to see him as a father, and he takes the blame, all the blame, everything he did, because there are no more survivors, because there was a certain sickness, yeah, the scream perhaps, or another type of sickness into the farm, and all the women got sick, and they had to kill all the women. So there were no witnesses anymore that could testify that the boy also did a lot of these crimes. So the pigman started to take all the blame. He got sent to death by in the prison, and the boy had to live on his own yet again, back to his family, but he didn't see them as his family anymore. So that's the first part of the story. That's, in my opinion, it's the interesting part, but we'll come back to later to that. Now we're getting back to the Scream. We follow Chuck, who lives unemployed in an apartment, and he just drinks, does drugs, and he interacts with the people around him, with his neighbor, alcoholic female that lost all the children and her husband, and is uh, just wants just has a void in her that she wants to fill up with drugs, booze, and sex. That's that's actually just it. That's the relationship that Chuck and Leslie got. So um, they're also there. So the first problem with this is just from EDC standpoint, where try to always better your life, even though you got through traumatic shit. The escapisms and drugs and alcohol, they are not the way to they only dulling the pain, but they will not take it away. That's the first take we can do this as a point from a prepper or a survivalist. And then we got one of friends. Friend is a big name, but we got Eugene, who is the local conspiracy theorist, and he's the guy who actually started to see patterns forming in the news. But there is a big problem, because in the news they starting to talk about a virus that infects people who just started to scream till they commit suicide, because they cannot stop screaming. So so Eugene is early aware of it. So, but the problem is, he only complains about it. He he doesn't do shit. He doesn't take precautions. All this stuff. Uh, Even more, he even deals sweet. So yeah, that's not a good prepper mindset. The moment you see such shit, take precautions, pantry, medical stuff, just the basic for surviving a pandemic, and a little bit less risky interactions with people who are very prone to get diseases, like with junkies and drug dealers, that kind of people, especially during a beginning pandemic. And another problem that this Eugene character has is he's a very into conspiracy theories. So he keeps blabbing one conspiracy theory after another, and then you get a situation like the boy who cried wolf, that nobody will take you serious anymore, even though he started to get right in certain amounts in the story, but because he's all over the place with theories, nobody takes him serious, and it's like I said, the boy who cried wolf, and yeah, that could be detrimental, not only to other people but also to himself, because yeah, that comes later on. Then the thing is, we got another character coming in, and it is Shitty. That's the name of the character. He's a homeless veteran. Yeah, I think it was a veteran person, and yeah, he's just someone who's down on his luck, homeless, and Chuck took pity upon him and just took him for a drink because Chuck is kind of weird that way. Yeah, and I think he doesn't really want to be alone constantly, or does need new stimulation, or he felt pity or whatever. The thing is, he took shitty, the character shitty with him. Uh, all right, so now all these characters, Jay just go. The first thing that they see actually happens in the apartment block that they are in. So we all know now they're in an apartment, a shitty apartment, uh, and it's in a bad neighborhood. So yeah, one thing could it's bad because they don't have the financial needs, the means to get prepared stuff, and also they don't have the financial stuff to not go out and try to do a side hustle to get some money. So that's another bad thing, that they have to go out in the danger zone where the pandemic is starting. And the first sign they had in the apartment was some guy started to scream, and he just threw himself off the stairs because he couldn't take it anymore and went down. So yeah, the first thing they do is they go to see the body. But if they listen to Eugene, they would know, oh, there is something called scream going on. First thing. Second, if there is a suspicion that it's contagious because they don't know how people get it, they get to the body. So there is a chance they get whatever it is, they can get infected by it. Second mistake. And the third thing is the paramedics came to collect the body of the person who committed suicide, and it is still in the early stages, so nobody knows what's going on. But Eugene was asking questions to the paramedics, and at first the paramedics are reluctant to talk about this because they don't want to cause panic. That's the first thing. But because they are reluctant, you got to understand, hmm, maybe there is more happening than the media will let know, or that there is. So there is a big uncertainty. So yeah, from that moment you need to know you cannot trust anything. You need to accept it as the worst case scenario if you don't even know what causes it and symptoms and that kind of stuff. All they know is somebody screams and usually somebody dies. That's the thing. And yet again, Eugene would be able to get more information out of this paramedic, but he's only whining. So he has low people skills, and he just keep going on the conspiracy way and just asking questions that are getting annoying to the paramedic. If you would be a prepper, you would ask questions in such a way that you don't bother the person. You got to. It's like an interrogation techniques. You got to to make the person you investigate, try to ask questions to get them personally more involved. Be friendly with them. Try to make them feel a little bit over you, so they will give the information out of pity or out of pride, that kind of stuff. There are a lot of interrogation techniques you can use, and Eugene is just too skilled in with people, and he doesn't ask the right questions in the right way. So that's also a big thing that they did wrong as a group of people. So after seeing that, what do these people do? They just go drinking, have a night out drinking in the bar. So when there is a pandemic, you don't go to public places. Big mistake, but these people do it anyway. And there we meet. I think the character is called Pablo. Pablo, the bartender, who's just a little bit of a downer person. Um, and yeah, they all go drinking in a bar. But in the bar, there is certain people who got into a fight, and they start to really fight nasty, even biting someone's face off, and then they realize they are infected with the scream. And yeah, all the people that I talked about, they 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 could go to their own places, but they think, oh, we are gonna be safe because they attacked each other after infection. Perhaps we are safer together. That's perhaps a good thing, because if there is a virus that will make people aggressive and attack you, then yeah, it's better to be in a group to fight them off. But it's in a city, so it's hard in a city to avoid them. So perhaps it's better in a group to have a bigger group to fight them off, than to be alone and be caught by multiple screamers, as they being called. But yet again, that is a benefit of the screamers, because they scream. You can hear them from far away screaming non-stop. It's not like they stop for to rest. No, they scream non-stop. The screamers. So it's easy to evade them, is in a way. So perhaps it's better to go in smaller groups with the weapons that they had, like a bar stool, that kind of stuff they had. But Chuck, our lovely protagonist, he wanted some booze, so they went to one of the one of the local, how do you call them, liquor stores. But yeah, the whole city is starting to get into panic now. It's all over. Shit is burning. People are screaming everywhere. Ambulances are riding everywhere and ignoring people that are wounded next on the street. So perhaps they are even running from screamers in their ambulances. So official help does is not arriving. No police, no paramedics, that kind of stuff. So everyone is on their own. Um, so Chuck, he wanted to buy some booze, and then everybody was, because everybody was afraid and stressed. They just wanted to go home, safe. But because Chuck, and we will know later on why Chuck is such a not charismatic, because he is taken as more of a leader figure. Uh, Everybody follows him going to the liquor store, but there during during a crisis, you don't go into a store. Why? Because the rule of law is gone. That means that if you think you can get away with stealing, somebody else will get away with killing you. And that is what happens. The owner of the liquor store is still fresh in the mind with the Los Angeles riots, and just like a rooftop Korean, he protects his store. And he thinks that the group of with Chuck are looters. And yeah, there is a little bit of a talking, getting surprised by a man by the owner with a shotgun, and he thinks they're looters. They try to talk it out. This man is clearly in panic and scared, and yeah, you don't make sudden movement and you don't go towards them, and one of them gets shot in the chest. Not good. Not in the chest. It was in the face that he got shot. Yeah. So that's already bad. Now you have to go to a chaotic city with screamers, with a wounded person, because they were able to leave the store. So that's already a good thing. So yeah, there are no paramedics, or hospitals were also out of the question, because screamers all around, because that would be the place where all the screamers would gather, I would say. And they bring the wounded person to Chuck's apartment. So yeah, now they're all in one apartment with a wounded person, and they try to patch him up. That was one of the good things. They try to improvise with sheets to stop the bleeding and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that was one of the good things. Even though I highly doubt these people were uh, they had experience, and not experience, I mean they had teachings, they ever were taught first aid. But I think because these are more marginalized people, prone to be involved in violence situations, that they had more experience with it. So perhaps that's the reason why they could patch up the person who got shot. So yeah, that's one thing. uh, it's been a long book, so there are so much is happening. So my trail of thoughts can be a little bit rambly or not in the right order. But yeah, now they are stuck in an apartment, and yeah, there are several screamers in the hall, and they try to get in, and they had to kill them with improvised weapons. And the problem now is, you have just fought probably people who are infectious, and you kill them. And now, what is the next thing that this group of people do? Holding an orgy. And I'm not talking about just having protective sex because, oh, tomorrow we all perhaps will be dead, so let's just have a last check. No, this is full blown double penetration orgy with fisting in the anus. It's a wild book, by the way, and one of them get infected while being fisted. So I don't think these people are the most hygienic people or caring with with disinfecting after fighting possible zombies. So one of them gets probably get literally fisted in the ass, and because it's bleeding in her ass, she got infected or started to get the symptoms of screaming, and they had to kill her too. So that's another thing we can learn from this. Whether the apocalypse happenings and you think one more check before, because who knows what happens tomorrow, either do it safe, no kissing, no spitting, use a condom, because it is a place where they could still have condoms, and we just one at a time, and don't do anything that could do bleeding, like anal fisting, or at least use some lube, that there will be no tearing. All right, so yeah, that was a wild part of the book, and yeah, then the problem was the homeless guy is. Because there were screamers in because they deemed the apartment not safe because of the killing of the infectious people. They think they want to go to another person apartment of the group, and Shitty, the homeless veteran, he for some reason he doesn't he knows everything's fucked, so perhaps I can protect these people, these girls. Yeah, because one of the girls, I will talk about her later, Brittany, and Leslie, they you want to protect her by distracting the screamers by going to the hallway and distract them so they can go safely to the other apartment. But he gets he gets whammed by the screamers. So Shitty is gone. And yeah, from a purpose perspective, it's hard. It's perhaps hard to say, but sometimes a sacrifice need to be made, and if you if you are a leader, the leader person, and you want the whole group to survive, somebody sometimes have to be sacrificed, and you can perhaps not say stay here, it's not safe. Perhaps a person who is more of a liability but willingly to put himself into danger, you can throw take the pin out and throw them into the horde for distraction. So yeah, it's a little bit nasty perhaps, but it's a little bit of a good call because Chuck did not say don't go there. He kind of nudged him in, like, I understand why you do this, so do it. He didn't say stop. No, I think he intentionally nudged him, not directly, into the idea of distracting him. So there's another thing that happened. One more kill. Shitty, what a shitty death, literally. And then we got a girl who want, because one of the women who died had still two babies in the apartment, so they go to the apartment where the babies where two babies are still, and they get jumped by screamers. So there is a fight, and the bartender Pablo, I think his name was, he he got seriously wounded during the fight protecting the others, and he did it also for the same reason that Chitty did it, I think, because he saw it like the end of the world, and he knew he was perhaps going to die now or later, and he sacrificed himself to fighting these off. He knew he was going to bleed out because I think he knew that he would bleed out faster than he would get infected, or get infected before he bleed out. One of the two, and he did it because he was a former rapist, and yeah, he saw how Eugene, by the way, Eugene was still there, uh, wanted to rape Brittany. So that's one of the things that also happened. Then Chuck had to fight off Eugene to protect Brittany, the a 17-year-old girl. to protect her. And yeah, uh, during the rescue to the babies, the bartender wanted to sacrifice himself because he was a former rapist, and this is going to be important to the plot, by the way. And he saw it as a sort of redemption, a last act of redemption to get mercy from perhaps God before he was going to die. So after that, they go to the apartment with the babies, and one of the babies is infected. Shit. Uh, Brittany, by the way, Leslie got wounded, and I think, and she wanted to die, so she wanted to die peacefully. That's one. So she's also dead because she couldn't take it anymore because her in her past her husband and children committed her husband committed suicide together with the children. So that's the reason why. So now it's only Chuck and Brittany left, I think. Yeah, it's going all over the place. So sorry if I misremember it a little bit, but whew, there are a lot of wild things happening here. Then, yeah, because they wanted to save the baby, they going to have sex. But here's a twist: Brittany is a guy. Brittany is apparently a transgender, and nobody knew it. And Chuck, and because of the situation, I don't know why, she wanted to have sex with Chuck, and Chuck said, "Fuck it, why not?" And they started to have sex. All right, so yeah, those things happens, and still screamers around, and there is only one healthy baby left, and Chuck takes the baby, and he reminds himself when he was younger, when he was the boy who got kidnapped by the pigman. It turned out that Chuck was the boy who was kidnapped and was raised by the pigman to kill all those women that they saw as feel. And that's why he recognized, that's why he also questions himself, did I do did I wanted to do good and protect these people even though I see them as veal, like Pablo wanted redemption even though he was a criminal like me. And yeah, he wanted to give the baby one last chance before he would consider it veal again. And and he wanted to take care of the baby for one more night and see for the next day, because that's where the book ends. And while the city is burning and screaming is all on the outside. So it is, in a very short way, the book of They All Died Screaming. So my take, there is a lot of not mentioning specific why the scream happened, because in the beginning it was like people got the scream and they just started screaming, and did it till they got crazy and committed suicide. But later on, they started to attack everyone, not only uninfected people. The screamers also started to attack each other, like in the bar, like it happens. So they attack everybody. So it's a problem. If they cannot form big groups, they are always individuals. And the moment they see something living, whether it's an infected or an uninfected person, they start to attacking itself. So that's actually a good thing, because that's a problem that is partially trying to solve itself in a way. It's not like the zombies will get in a bigger group. And another benefit of the screamers are they're screaming, so you can hear them a lot. Other benefit, once they are infected and they start screaming, they only have a certain amount of time to live before they go crazy, dehydrate, kill themselves, or get killed. So yeah, this is a very short zombie apocalypse kind of situation, like 28 days later kind of thing. But it's like, so, and it's also a mystery how people got infected. They don't know, because certain people got infected. Looks like they got infected after they fought a screamer, or got perhaps material, like the girl who got fisted after by someone who had earlier fight off a zombie, a screamer. So yeah, it's like there is no, and it's like very random. It's like happening everywhere. So it's not because of the water, because otherwise, because it's a city, so many people would be infected at the same time. It's not by biting only or wounds, because otherwise people got infected while they never encountered a screamer before. That's another thing that happened. So One of the persons thought made had a theory that it's, I think it was Pablo the bartender, had a theory that it happens randomly. It's like that it was like magic. But in my personal opinion, the way that I read the book, it was more like, I think it's like a Walking Dead scenario where everybody is infected, but everybody turns into a different at a different time. Someone has a stronger immunity, will turn later on, or somebody has certain genes that they, after incubation, start to get infected. Because Chuck does not get sick, because that is mentioned in the book. Because all the when he was a boy on the pig farm with all the women that got captured, all the women got sick, and even the pigman got sick with an infection, but he never got sick. So either he had a sort of very good immune system, or he was immune to whatever is started spreading over there, and also later on. It's like people who with the gene, people who in northern, like people in Europe whose ancestors survived the Black Plague, had a bigger chance to be immune to HIV infections. So that's perhaps a kind of similar situations that is happening right here. So I think that is what is happening. Everyone is infected, and everyone is turning at a slower or a faster rate, or has certain factors or genes that activate it. Perhaps is a good word. So in that case, yeah, it's a game of luck if you see it like a prepper. So there is nothing to do. It's you either got lucky or you're unlucky, and information is in this case the biggest scenario, because from all what I had to take, I had to make these theories from what I saw in the book as someone who's witnessing it in real time what is happening. So that's also fun as a prepper to read this book. You learn everything from the perspective of Chuck, who learns it every minute what is happening around him. What I also perhaps think is a theory is the screen virus gets around by pests like birds, pigeons, or rats or something. Because we live in a dirty part of the city, perhaps it can spread like that, and not everyone gets in contact with these animals at the same rate. So that's another theory that I personally got from this. So another thing that I want to say is whenever there is news of an apocalypse coming, or there is an apocalypse happening, or in this case, zombie-like apocalypse, don't drink. First thing, don't do drugs. Uh-uh. Bunker down, especially if you know that in that the mechanism, because this I always consider magic uh, not true. Magic is always, you can always find an answer why magic is happening. So the biomechanicals are always, these things use energy by screaming and going after everything that is living. So they expend energy, and energy always have to cannot be destroyed. It formed, and that means they either going to kill themselves or they get killed by someone else. So you have to wait it out. Bunker down, sit down in your apartment or wherever you are, fill everything you up with as much water you can, whether it's buckets, glasses, any container you can fill up with water, fill it up, because if the city is chaotic as it is in the book, yeah, you the water supply will be not maintained even in that day, I think. So, or close stuff to, because nobody knows how it's been spreading. They perhaps close off the water supply to the city to prevent other people to get infected that way. So perhaps take water, disinfect it, or only take bottled water. That's another thing. Carry as much bottled water as you can. Bunker down in an apartment wherever you are, and wait the storm out, because, like I said, these things expend much energy by screaming and attacking. So it will be short term. So I would say it would take a week, perhaps a week, 3 days to a week, till most of them are dead, or have gone away or perished or are too weak to attack you anyway. So that's something that could happen. Don't eat anything that is already been opened or possibly be tampered with or been eaten by someone else. Uh, try to spread out people, like not like everyone in the same room, but spread them out by people who have already been in contact with each other, like quarantine zones, I would say, so that you don't put any. If there is one person sick and could possible transmit a disease like that, that you don't put them all in the same room. For the love of the God, don't have sex, or at least have protective sex. That's another thing. Arm yourself, and in this case, they had improvised weapons, and the most weapons they used were bludgeoning weapons, like bar cracks, bar stools, that this kind of stuff, and some kitchen knives, that kind of stuff. By the way, the screamers also could have weapons. That's a thing that you need to take in account. So have something to protect yourself, whether it's magazine, books taped to yourself. If you're going out for some reason, that you at least being protected from bites, weapons, or bludgeoning. Helmets, in whether it's a crash helmet, whether it's anything that could protect you from bludgeoning, punches, biting. The more protection you got, the better, because you will perhaps not outrun these things because they will be under adrenaline and they will run faster than you are and they don't give a shit about anything. So it's not like you can stab them in the knee and they will, oh, you got me, and they will do nothing. No, they will keep following you no matter what. That's another thing. Another thing I would say is try to find the hiding spots where they are, they cannot, they would not think to look for you, because the screamers can still think, so they can still go to places where they think that other people are, or if they hear a sound they can think, oh, it's there is this place nearby, that sound must be coming from there, and they will attack it. By the way, before we go to my last point, if you're interested in detective stories, there will be a link to my books called Bloody Crosses and the Jason Murders. It's a detective series, so if you're interested, take a look at these. It's in Dutch, by the way. Alright, so the last point I would say is uh, don't try to always be prepared for the worst, even if the situation may not seem like it. It's like Eugene, the boy who cried wolf situation. The moment you see news, try to find out if it's real. Try to find different sources. Try to find information that are all alike and take that for as positive, as a positive for confirmation. And what is different, that's information you will have to take with a grain of salt, but keep it in your mind, and that way you can perhaps get more information, because knowledge is power, and that way you can prepare yourself better at specific dangers. All right, so this was my take on the book They All Died Screaming. It's a very interesting book, I would say. uh, I hope you I hope you read it before I spoil it. So sorry for that if you did not see my spoiler warning in the beginning. And I would still read it. It's a very interesting book, and I don't know if it's coming before or after. But the next book I will do is um I Must Scream and I Don't Have a Mouth, because I think I'm going to keep doing this for sometimes as in the Prepper channel, to analyze books that I find interesting as a prepper. I did that in the past with movies, but I'm going to do this more with books, I think, in the future. So I will hope you find it interesting. Like, scrap all the good stuff, and see you in the next video. Cheers.